Welcome to Take Your Time, the Tales and Exhales of Caregivers. I'm your host, Beverly Nance, and tonight's episode is not just special. This isn't just an interview. It's what I like to call a careversation. It's a heart-to-heart between two people who share the caregiving journey in a deeply connected way, but very different ways. I'm joined tonight by someone who's walked this path beside me from the very beginning. He's my son. He's his sister's co-guardian. He's her protector, her advocate, her steady. And he's been part of this story, not by choice, but by love. So grab a cup of coffee or wine and take a breath and join us for an honest careversation, which be sometimes funny, sometimes emotional. It's about family, responsibility, and the quiet strength of siblings. So let's get started. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you for having me.
It's special because our story that we were telling was about caregivers who live on the same street, and one son is on the higher end of the spectrum and the other son is on the lower end of the spectrum. And it's kind of like how society treats them and the things that they go through. So I just had some questions for you for our careversation. It's not formal. It's kind of informal. And it's from a sibling's point of view because we did talk about the siblings during the story. So I could answer these questions, but I want to hear them from you. So what was your earliest memories of your sister?
I would say the earliest memories of my sister was when she was a little baby. I don't really know why this particular memory always sticks in my mind when I think about my earliest memories of her. But she was crawling up the stairs in like nothing but a diaper. And I probably had to be like 3 or 4 thinking about that. And other early memories, I would say, is when I was playing Little League baseball, the playground was on the outfield. So you could walk around the field to get there. But, Tyler, she wanted to go straight to the playground. So she would cut through the outfield. And you always hear somebody say, "Hey, who's Ken's at the outfield?" I look back and there's Tyler sprinting to the playground and hopping the fence to get to the playground quicker.
Oh, yeah. Back in those days, she was a runner. Okay. So how would you describe your relationship growing up from your point of view?
Well, I like to think our relationship was as normal as it could be. I always knew Tyler was different. That it didn't take much explaining to me to understand that, she was on the autism spectrum and that she did require different things than I did as a kid. So my relationship, I always looked at it as I have to be her protector, I have to be her advocate, even back then when I was a kid.
Okay. Were there times that you felt left out or frustrated? And how did you deal with it?
Not necessarily left out or frustrated. I tried to never hold, things that we had to do against her because that is not something that she's choosing to do. I remember when she had the therapy sessions way out, almost in Delmar, I think it was out in Sorrento Valley, outside of San Diego, where we were born and we were raised. And I just remember those long drives. I didn't think it was like a frustrating thing. It was like, man, it's a long drive. I never held it against her though. And even when she had at-home therapy, asked me to help, or one time they asked one of my friends to help in a therapy session. And it was never really any like frustration with it. It was just, this is what Tyler needs.
Okay. Did you talk about her with your friends? That's what I always wondered, if you talked about her having autism with your friends.
Yeah, I did. For ones I was, I would say, like good friends with, I would always tell them, hey, my sister's on the autism spectrum. Yep. But I had teammates playing high school basketball that I told as well. And it was never on some, hey, by the way, my sister's autistic. Some people would ask, sometimes I would just tell them, when they say, hey, do you have a sibling? I say, yeah. I have a younger sister who was on the autism spectrum. I have an older sister who I haven't seen in a while. But it was always open conversations. Every now and then I would get a question like, what's that like? But I never like took offense to it or anything.
Okay. Okay, so how did you feel when I asked you to become her co-guardian? Because I didn't have a second choice. You were the only choice, the only person asked.
I took it as like a natural next step in the process. I always figured that it would be something of that nature. That like, as Tyler got older, as I got older as well, that Tyler's gonna need someone to look out for, and it can't always be all on one person. It takes a village to raise a child. Probably plus that with a child with autism or a person with special needs. So I'm just glad to be part of that village.
Oh, okay. Okay. What does your role look like in her life today?
My role is a little different because I live in my home. Tyler still lives there, but I always try to just make sure I'm the best brother I can be, whether that be when I'm with her or when I'm not with her. I'm always trying to make sure I create a space for her to be herself. I always try to make sure I'm checking on her progress at her day program. I'm trying to have just natural conversations with her. I always say though to people who ask, me and Tyler, we speak our own language. Like a lot of people understand her, but I understand her probably best. I understand her even when they'll say like one of her quick lines or anything like that. I understand. Every now and then I have to ask her to say it again, or if she might introduce new vocabulary on me. Now I'm not familiar with her when she's saying it. I always try to just be like the best big brother I can for her.
You are. You are. Okay. How has it affected your view of adulthood and your future?
I would say one thing I dealt with as I got older was like a guilt. And I would probably say it started when I went to college, and it was like the first time we were really like separated, and she had her reactions, and like she was very upset with me, honestly,
She
because I was
was.
so far away. But eventually we got into a groove where she started to understand, like, I was gone, but I wasn't gone permanently. I wasn't gone for good. I was still coming home once a month to do laundry or something or the other to visit. And then when she understood that, it was fine. Even as an adult, I live in my home. She lives there. I think Tyler understands as long as she knows like where I'm at. Because you say all the time when you're driving the Conyers area, sometimes she'll point in the direction of my house, and she knows where I'm at. So I think as long as she knows where I'm at, it's fine. And it's definitely grown like more mature. Like Tyler is a lot more. She's not the runner she used to be. She's not the crazy ball of energy she used to be. She still has a lot of energy, but she's not that, you know, got like constantly with eyeing her all the time. Otherwise she might spread off on you. But I would say it's grown naturally, and I say that's still my baby sister always.
Okay. What are the rewarding and the hard parts, if any?
The rewarding part is those moments when Tyler's frustrated or she feel like nobody's understanding her, and you decipher what she's looking for and what she needs, and she shows that appreciation, and that's rewarding. Having a sister, even though our conversations aren't like normal between two people, I can still communicate with her, and I know she's listening. She may not always understand completely what I'm saying, but I know she's listening.
Yeah, I think she
So
understands you really well. I think.
I think so too. I think Tyler's a lot smarter than people would give her credit for. Like, yes, she's on the spectrum. Yes, she's nonverbal, but at the same time, she's very quick to understand things. Like I remember with Tyler carries her bag of beads around, and she used to always lug them up the stairs. And I said, "Well, Tyler, if you want help, to say help me." And she took that and sprinted off with it. Understood it, understood the application. Words like yes, no, even bed night. That started when we were kids, and used to tell Tyler, "Hey, go bed night." And she just took that and said bed night, and now we understand that. So we always understood each other. But those are the rewarding moments for sure. Just having that sister to interact with, having that sibling to look out for. And she looks out for me in her own ways. Challenges to having a sibling with autism is sometimes, the world can be cruel, and you kind of worry about that. Like I don't ever want to get into a situation where law enforcement or anything like that are interacting with her and she can't really communicate with them. Those are like challenges, and I pray that we never have to cross that bridge, but those can be challenges.
Yeah. Well, I hope not. So, what is something that for people who are just starting out and they have a sibling with autism, what is something that people don't understand about autism? Because sometimes people just think it's just one thing.
And that's it right there. Autism is not just one thing. You know, a lot of people think autism is strictly nonverbal or strictly lower functioning, but there are brilliant people with autism. There are people that can speak well, that can basically live, you know, a normal life for the most part in an autism spectrum. There's people out there living a normal life right now that don't even realize they're on the autism spectrum. They were never diagnosed properly. But I think that's the misconception, that autism's one color, so to speak, or one way. And it's rarely ever one way. You might find similarities, but there's always differences.
Yeah, I agree with you. Have you ever felt invisible or pushed to the side? Because that's another thing that I often worried about. If I gave you enough time.
I never felt invisible. You know, I always felt like I was visible growing up. I'm visible as an adult. I never felt like I was ever being neglected. You know, if anything, I was always worried about, is Tyler getting what she needs? Is she being heard? Like, when, my father had the divorce, I was wondering, is she being heard through this whole process?
Yeah.
That's my whole thing.
Okay. How has being her sibling shaped your views on inclusion and fairness?
I wouldn't say it shaped it completely because, like I said, I've known Tyler all 32 years. I can't believe she's 32. All 32 years of her life. And I never, I understood the differences, but I never really let me do X, Y, Z always and do all this for her at all times. I was like, Tyler can be independent and she loves her independence. Mm-hmm. But it was, I would say, it shaped it in a way to say, we're all God's creations. We're all different in a way. And it's always, we're all people. And everybody deserves the right to be treated like a person. Everybody deserves the right to be, heard and seen in the world. We live in a world that's going through some weird things right now. We got weird people in the White House. And I just want to make sure that everybody has the right to be heard and no one's neglected.
Okay. What future do you hope for her, especially since you're her co-guardian?
Just a future she's safe. I think that's number 1, 2, and 3 for me. Just a future where she's safe. She's in a good place where she's provided for, and she just has everything she needs. I'm sure if Tyler could have a perfect world, she would have a debit card with no limit, if someone would take her to the store, or a car to get drive her to the store. But as long as her needs are met and she's safe, that's what's most important.
Okay. What are you most proud of when it comes to your role in her life?
I'm just proud to be her brother. I'm just proud to be able to be there for her and to look out for her. There's a lot of people out there who don't have anyone to look out for them, whether they're autistic or not.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most proud of.
And is there anything that you still find challenging?
The guilt, being, I get to live my life, but what about Tyler? That's still kind of a challenge, but like you told me, you can't let that hinder the way you live. You still got to live your life. So I try to find balance in the two. Like, yes, I can still live my life. I'm getting married soon, so I can still live a life, and I can still have time to be Tyler's brother. I'm always going to be Tyler's brother. That doesn't have to change because I'm living my life. Okay,
what advice would you give another adult? They don't have to be the co-guardian, but just an adult to an adult sibling. Is there any advice that you would give them?
I would say, take it a day at a time, a moment at a time, and just be there. You don't have to be Superman. I know sometimes when we have an autistic sibling, we feel like we have to be Superman. We have to do all things. Always find somebody to lean on, to talk to, make time for yourself. And there are people who are in situations to where their caregiving needs are far more. So I don't always say find ways to make time for yourself too, and
That's good advice.
just be the sibling and the advocate, and that looks different for a lot of different people. So I would just say those things would be my advice.
That's great advice. So we are starting a new game called Care to Share, and you can answer or not. So these are all supposed to be fun questions. So what would be your ultimate sneakerhead flex? This is the pair that you would go back into the house if there were a fire.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I got a lot of shoes. I got a couple pairs of Kobe's. I probably wouldn't want to burn in the house. I don't really wear them that much anymore. One of them was starting to get a little old and starting to come apart at the toe. So I probably don't save that one as like a memento.
Okay. Would you rather go to the Super Bowl or to the World Series?
I'm in the World Series, preferably if the Padres are playing.
Okay. If offered $1 million, which game would you choose which game world would you live in for 24 hours?
24 hours?
$1 million. It's $1 million.
So I can just pick anyone?
You'd have to survive it.
Okay, Mario then. I'll just go race go-karts or something.
You're not going to survive. You're not going to survive.
Go-kart race?
Okay, if money was no problem, where is one place that you would visit with your fiance, Ashley, before you got married?
Probably Bali.
That's a good
we talked about going to Bali before.
Okay, the Lakers make it a game 7. There are 7 seconds left in the game. Who gets the ball?
Luka.
Oh, okay.
Like, no disrespect to LeBron. He's one of the greats of all time, but, Luka's showing he's got that edge about him.
Okay. What book changed how you see your sister or yourself?
Book?
Book.
Well read. My bookshelf. Well, of the books I see here in front of me, those are the ones that are going to come quickest to mind. It's a book that I would recommend to anyone to read, no matter what they do in life, what stage they are in life, and you probably guess which one it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
A Lifetime of Observations and Reflections on and off the court by the late, great John Wooden. And it's just a book of his life story and just little tidbits of advice and things of that nature. I'm looking at a page right now, it says creating my definition of success. And he goes through his definition of success. That you are different, I am different. See, just what we're talking about right there.
And that's a good book.
Yeah, it's an excellent read. I'd recommend it to anyone.
Okay, which role fits you best? Would you be a coach, a strategist, or an emotional support MVP?
Probably, I don't know if I make a great strategist, but I would prefer strategist because I have a great appreciation and respect for the great strategists in history in the world. A few read books up here by my favorite author, Robert Greene. One of his favorite historical people to talk about is Napoleon. And Napoleon wasn't the greatest person in the world, but he was an amazing strategist. And even how he treats people early on, like his soldiers, like how he would give them the spoils of the conquest, and that would make them more loyal. I always found that interesting.
That is interesting. Okay, you get 2 hours of alone time. Are you going to read, game, watch TV, or sleep?
Oh, that's tough. I probably want to do a combination of all of them.
Okay. And what's your favorite moment you've ever had with Tyler? Just the two of you.
Just the two of us? Well, I'm going to cheat on this question. I'm going to give one just for the two of us and then just for the three of us. I think my favorite memory of all the two of us, me and Tyler, was those nights where we would stay home by ourselves while you were at work, or when you went on a cruise, when you finally got out there on vacation. And I remember you had all the clothes laid out by day. And I was like going down the line, like, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we get to like Wednesday, and Tyler wanted to wear the Friday outfit that day. And I was like, nah, Tyler, this was next in the line, me trying to be organized and whatnot. And she kind of like just shrugged me off and just went and grabbed the outfit and went and got dressed. So being able to see her make those independent choices always brings a smile to my face. Another one when we were on the cruise, it was kind of all three of us, they were there too, but seeing her put the butter on her bread or take the little mint leaf and take it from cup of water to cup of water. But those were always good times. And I think one of my favorite moments of us together was SeaWorld. And you know what I'm talking about when she got loose in that obstacle course. And you cover 5E, like, Troy, you have to stop Tyler. I'm like, stop her. Like, what do you mean stop her? So I climb up the rope to go get her. And then I see her out in the open. I say, Tyler. And she just turns around and starts like laughing maniacally and sprints off. I'm like, oh, this is a problem. So you were coordinating things from the ground. I was like trying to get through the obstacle course to get to her. I cornered her at a slide, kind of tricked her into going down the slide, and then you were able to get her.
That was funny. Now it is, but then it wasn't. Oh my gosh. So thank you for sharing your truth, your heart, and your perspective, not just as my son, but as a sibling, a co-guardian, a man who shows up for his sister, and this journey of compassion and consistency. Your story is part of so many silent stories out there. And by sharing it, you're making other people feel seen, especially the siblings. Because, nobody ever asks about the siblings. So I know that it's being vulnerable is not always easy, but I also know that someone that is listening tonight just breathed a little bit easier because of you. And before we wrap, I want to give you the last word. If there's any advice that you can think of that other siblings or co-guardians need to hear, because sometimes people are carrying a lot and nobody really sees how much they're carrying.
I would say if you feel that you are getting overwhelmed, like I said, just find someone to lean on, find somebody to talk to. And if all else fails, talk to God, go into prayer, go into your Bible.
That's excellent advice. Well, thank you, Troy, for joining me on the Tales and the Exhales of Caregivers. And we might have you back again soon because you gave out some really good advice. So for those of you who have not listened to the story, please go back and listen to the story of the autism that's on the same street, higher functioning autism and lower functioning autism. And you kind of get a grasp of what we're talking about. So thank you. And I will talk to you soon.